Morning, guys. We are still on solving quadratic equations by factoring 1D. And I wanted to do one more problem with you. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down to number 5. Remember that what's different here between the last assignment? Well, we are seeing negatives, so I just like to spend some extra time on the negatives. Let's get right to it. Is this a quadratic equation? Yes, it is. It has that x squared term. Is it an equation at all? Yeah, because it has an equal sign. And is it equal to 0? No, it's not. So since it's not equal to 0, we have a little work we need to do before we can start factoring. I'm going to start by getting rid of the 3x and this negative 10 over here. It's minus 10, but we treat it like a negative. And I'm going to get rid of both of those at the same time. So I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. On the left, I want to put it under the 22x. Because x's come from, they're like terms is what we would say here. To get rid of a minus 10, again, we treat it like a negative 10. To get rid of negative 10, we would add 10 because those are opposites, and opposites cancel. Since I'm adding 10 here, I'm also adding 10 on the left. So make sure that we're doing exactly the same thing on both sides, which we are. So let's go ahead and do this. I have 6x squared. That didn't change. Now 22 minus 3 is 19, and since it's x, I have 19x. And then negative 30 plus 10 is negative 20. And this is all equal to 0, and that was the whole thing, right? We don't really want to factor until it's equal to 0, because if I factor and it's not equal to 0, I'm unable to use the zero product property. So I did factor it, or rather I did make it equal to 0. So now let's go ahead and do the factoring part. I'm going to put my a times c at the top, b at the bottom. Well, what are those? A is 6, b is 19, and c is negative 20. So on the top, 6 times negative 20 is negative 120. On the bottom, I have positive 19. And it actually took me a little while to figure out the numbers that work here. So if it took you a little while, then we're on the same page. It actually ended up being positive 24 and negative 5. And so again, I actually had to go through a couple of different things to figure out what those numbers were. But of course they are there. So now that I have that part done, probably the hardest part in this whole problem, let's go ahead and put those numbers in our box and then factor. So what does go in the box? Well, the first term, 6x squared, is going to be on the top left. The last term of the new equation, negative 20, is going to go on the bottom right. And then the two numbers we found, the positive 24 becomes positive 24x, and negative 5 becomes negative 5x. So we're ready to do the sides. Now, there are actually a couple of different ways to make 6x squared. It could be 6 times 1, or it could be 2 times 3 here. Now, this one does turn out to be 6 times 1. And we can see that because if I have 6x on top, it is easy to make it into 24x, 6 times 4. If I had 2 or 3 on the front, neither of those would work well for this 5. So that was the thing that really tipped me off that I'm going to use 6 and 1 instead of 2 and 3. It is possible, though, that it could have been 2 and 3, so we're going to make sure we think through that. Anyway, now that I know this is 6x, this has to be x here. To turn x into negative 5x, I need negative 5. And to turn 6x into 24x, I need positive 4. And so all of that together means my factored form is x plus 4 times 6x minus 5 equals 0. Now, since it's equal to 0, we use a zero product property. X plus 4 equals 0, and 6x minus 5 equals 0. They're two separate equations, and we do need to solve them both separately. On this side, all I'm doing is subtracting 4 from both sides. X equals negative 4. Over here, I need to add the 5 first to get rid of negative 5. Positive 5 is its opposite. This gives me 6x equals positive 5. And I finish that off by dividing by 6 to get x equals 5 over 6. And so is that all? Do I need to do anything else? No, that is finished. I am finished when I can tell what x is, right? And there are two x values here. X equals -4 and x equals +5/6. Let's look at the whole problem just to get a feel of all the work we did. It is a lengthy problem, I understand that, but it is stuff that you do need to know how to do. So please go ahead and take the time, go through the process, and give me x's as answers for all of those problems. All right. Thank you.